In the grim darkness of the far future, innocence is an illusion. There is only the harsh truth of existence, bought with the ashes of billions. I have witnessed entire civilizations crumble into the void. A single nod, a singular decree, and a prosperous world is erased from imperial records forever. The Exterminatus is not a weapon of malice, my acolytes. It is a divine instrument of necessary purgation, mandated by his holy will alone. When the roots of heresy burrow too deep into the soil of a world, no conventional crusade can cleanse the corruption. We must scorch the earth. Hesitation in such dire moments breeds absolute doom for humanity. To spare the guilty few is to condemn the righteous masses to unimaginable suffering. This heavy burden of absolute judgment falls upon the Adeptus Ministorum. We are the silent wardens, standing against the terrifying shadows of the warp. Gather around, seekers of the hidden truth. The archives I unseal today hold no comfort, only the chilling reality of our endless, unseen war. These forbidden texts chronicle the shadow campaigns. They speak of the Inquisition, the eternal blade pressed against the throat of ultimate darkness. Every recorded sentence here is bought with sacrifice. To understand the Inquisition is to understand the terrifying cost of our species' continued survival. Deep beneath the fortified crust of our strongest strongholds, there exist cells where daylight is a forgotten myth. Here, the gravest threats are quietly silenced. Men like Valerius do not seek glory under the bright sun. They walk through abyssal nightmares so that ordinary citizens might dream in peaceful ignorance. Their authority is absolute, derived directly from the Golden Throne itself. To question an inquisitor is to court swift and unforgiving retribution from above. Within these hidden chambers, mercy is considered a fatal weakness. The enemies of mankind use our compassion as a weapon to dismantle our fragile order. We extract truths hidden beneath layers of madness and corruption. The process is never gentle, for the warp yields its secrets only through profound pressure. Every heresy starts as a single, quiet whisper in the dark. Left unchecked, it becomes a roaring tempest that can shatter 1,000 loyal worlds. I have seen faith twisted into grotesque mockeries of devotion. The ruinous powers prey upon the desperate, offering false salvation wrapped in beautiful, toxic lies. Holy fire is often the only cure for a planet infected by the mutant and the heretic. We bring absolute purification through unforgiving, searing heat. Brute force alone cannot preserve the Imperium. It requires a relentless will to excise the sickness before the systemic rot consumes the entire galactic body. Our survival hangs by the thinnest of threads, my loyal students. The Inquisition holds that thread tightly, pulling it away from the edge of annihilation. The seal of the Rosette is a promise of both salvation and absolute destruction. It is the uncompromising judgment rendered in the Emperor's holy name. This fading record you hear is the authorized testimony of a retired arbiter. It serves as a dire warning against the ever-encroaching shadows of ignorance. We speak of the holy orders of the Emperor's Inquisition. They are the final bulwark standing firmly between humanity and absolute, irreversible, cosmic extinction. Their authority supersedes all planetary governors and military commanders entirely. They alone possess the grim mandate to judge the fate of entire star systems. A Lord Inquisitor bows to no mortal soul. Their terrifying presence demands absolute obedience, for they carry the boundless weight of the Emperor's unyielding judgment. To possess the Rosette is to wield a power second only to the master of mankind. It is a terrifying burden, forged in righteous duty. Our glorious genesis traces back to the darkest era of the Horus heresy. It was a time when brother fought brother in unthinkable galactic betrayal. Under the wise guidance of Malcador the Sigillite, the very first hunters were chosen. They were extraordinary individuals, forged from pure, unbreakable resolve and faith. These silent sentinels built an empire of necessary secrets. They operated without the glory of common soldiers, embracing shadows to preserve the blazing imperial light. Harsh principles were established immediately. Morality became a secondary concern when compared to the strict, unwavering survival of our vast, embattled human civilization. From those early days of treachery, the Inquisition divided its monumental tasks. 3 major ordos were constructed to face 3 distinct, catastrophic cosmic threats. The Ordo Hereticus roots out the enemy within our ranks. Mutants, rogue psychers, and treacherous cultists are purged relentlessly by their holy, unyielding flame. They monitor the purity of our vast domains tirelessly. Every planetary governor knows that the witch hunters might suddenly arrive to scrutinize their absolute loyalty. The Ordo Xenos stands against the alien menace without hesitation. They are the vigilant watchmen defending our borders from horrific extraterrestrial monstrosities and subtle infiltrators. To study the alien is to understand its inherent weaknesses. Their specialized Death Watch units execute precise strikes to shatter any Xenos empire before it grows. Finally, the Ordo Malleus confronts the ultimate nightmare beyond reality. These demon hunters battle terrifying warp entities that defy all logic and mortal sanity. Only the most incorruptible souls are chosen for this dread task. They wear blessed silver armor and wield weapons forged in ancient, forgotten rituals. Through centuries of glorious, hidden campaigns, these 3 branches maintained order. They silently excised cancerous threats, while the rest of humanity slept in blissful ignorance. Their victories are never celebrated with grand parades or monuments. A successful campaign simply means another day of survival for our besieged galactic empire. This golden age of necessary shadows built an unbreakable foundation. But even the strongest ceramite shields can eventually fracture under constant, unimaginable pressure. We must now transition from ancient glories to a darker chapter. The archives demand that I recount a specific, devastating incident within Hive Primus. To understand their brutal efficiency, one must observe the intricate mechanics of their holy war gear. A primed bolter is a prayer of explosive destruction waiting patiently. Heavy flamers require precise promethium mixtures to ensure maximum purging temperatures. Ceramite armor plates are meticulously anointed with sacred oils before every covert descent into darkness. Lord Inquisitors don Terminator armor for the most perilous purges. The servo motors whine with immense power, translating absolute human will into devastating, unstoppable physical momentum effortlessly. Airborne servo skulls constantly process complex tactical auspex data. They map the convoluted labyrinthine corridors of rotting hive cities to identify optimal breach points for our kill teams. Every logistical requisition is meticulously documented by heavily augmented scribes. A single misfiled parchment could starve a crucial planetary blockade or delay an orbital bombardment utterly. Astropaths burn their minds to transmit vital intelligence across the treacherous warp storms. Their psychic choir is the only fragile tether binding the scattered Imperial sectors. Within the heavily fortified judgment chambers, complex neural whips are precisely calibrated. They bypass physical resilience to extract hidden heresies directly from a suspect's deeply buried subconscious. Interrogators utilize advanced cogitator engines to cross-reference trillions of civilian data points. They hunt for subtle, anomalous behavioral patterns that signify a gene-stealer cult's insidious expansion. Condemned sinners are hardwired directly into towering, penitent engines. Chemical injectors flood their veins with synthetic adrenaline, transforming their absolute despair into a weaponized, holy fury. The Rosette itself is a marvel of microscopic engineering. It contains quantum-encrypted gene codes that grant immediate, override access to any planetary defense network without any question. Deploying an inquisitorial strike force into a towering hive city demands supreme coordination. Valkyrie gunships navigate extremely narrow, toxic ventilation shafts using advanced logic engine guidance systems. Standard munitions are often insufficient against the unnatural resilience of the warp. Bolter shells are blessed with microscopic silver filaments to disrupt localized demonic energy fields. Tactical hololiths display heavily fortified heretic strongholds in stunning detail. Kill teams study these thermal projections to calculate optimal blast radiuses for their specialized melta-charges beforehand. The sheer logistical weight of maintaining these shadow wars is staggering. Entire agricultural worlds are completely exhausted simply to feed the immense armies of the Holy Ordos. Preparing an orbital cyclonic torpedo strike requires terrifying mathematical precision. Atmospheric density, planetary rotation, and tectonic fault lines are analyzed to ensure absolute, total planetary sterilization. Inquisitors endure grueling bioenhancements to withstand the horrors they face. Specialized combat stimulators keep their heart rates steady, even when confronting mind-shattering, impossible geometries of the warp. The disruption fields generated by ancient power weapons can effortlessly cleave through solid adamantium bulkheads. Maintaining these unstable energy matrices requires constant, dedicated litanies of machine appeasement. Telepathic relays are shielded by heavy leaden walls and hexagrammic wards. This prevents ambient warp entities from possessing the vulnerable astropaths during their strenuous interstellar communications. Dismantling a cybernetic heretic demands surgical, mechanical precision. Tech exorcists carefully sever neural linkages to prevent the corrupted machine spirits from uploading scrap code into our sacred databanks. This is the cold, calculated machinery of our survival. Yet even the most perfect Imperial mechanisms were pushed to their absolute limits during the Hive Primus incident. The machine of the Inquisition worked flawlessly for millennia. It stood as an unbroken shield of pure adamantium against the encroaching dark. Countless unseen victories were meticulously recorded and sealed away in deep vaults. We believed our vigilance was absolute and entirely impenetrable. Lord Inquisitors commanded absolute authority across 1,000,000 worlds. Their mere presence extinguished rebellious thoughts before they could even materialize into treason. The Holy Ordos operated with cold, calculated perfection. We assumed the shadows were fully contained beneath the blinding light of the Emperor's grace. But hubris is the most insidious poison. We failed to recognize the subtle rot festering deep within the colossal foundations of Hive Primus. The grand illusion of security shattered instantaneously. Crimson warning lumen globes bathed the subterranean hab blocks in a harsh, unforgiving light of absolute panic. Astropathic choirs shrieked in sudden collective agony. A terrifying psychic shockwave rippled through the sector, blinding our astropaths with horrific visions of ruin. Interrogator Kalen witnessed the unthinkable on the surveillance monitors. Billions of desperate citizens simultaneously embraced a beautiful, toxic lie whispered from the warp. From the toxic underhive, cult Magos Zareth ascended. His cybernetic tendrils woven with blasphemous scrap code orchestrated a perfectly synchronized, planet-wide rebellion against the throne. Grotesque mutant brutes emerged from the forgotten sumps. They dismantled local enforcer blockades with terrifying ease, plunging the lower levels into utter, uncontrollable chaos. Lord Valerius mobilized his elite strike force without a single moment of hesitation. The time for silent observation had abruptly and violently concluded. Valkyrie transports dove straight into the choking, promethium-laced smog of the underhive. They carried righteous fury to the very heart of the sprawling corruption. Sister Ignatia prepared her holy promethium reserves. The sudden stench of systemic betrayal demanded immediate, overwhelming purification through the cleansing grace of fire. Emergency protocols were activated across the entire subsector. Every scribe servitor frantically processed absolute quarantine orders, sealing the Hive world's terrible fate in ink. Heretical symbols were painted over sacred aquillas using a dark, viscous fluid. The entire city's infrastructure was rapidly weaponized against its loyal, panicked populace. Kalen advanced through the labyrinthine maintenance tunnels. The humming energy field of his blade illuminated the oppressive darkness, revealing shadowy figures lurking ahead. The Inquisition did not negotiate with this systemic madness. Lord Valerius prepared to breach the main cult sanctuary with unyielding divine force. In the archives, I desperately searched for a historical precedent to this sudden madness. The sheer scale of the coordinated heresy was entirely unprecedented. The shadow of ultimate judgment loomed heavily over Hive Primus. If this localized purge failed, the entire planet would be swiftly and mercifully erased. The deafening shriek of structural alarms drowned out all rational thought. We plunged headfirst into an abyssal nightmare, where faith was our only armor. The heavy thud of bolt shells shattered the tense silence entirely. Muzzle flashes painted the oppressive tunnel walls with brief, violent strokes of righteous, blinding illumination. Sister Ignatia unleashed a roaring torrent of sanctified promethium. The heretical masses simply dissolved into swirling gray ash before her unyielding, terrifying purity of absolute faith. A hulking, mutated monstrosity charged from the blinding smoke recklessly. Its rusted chain cleavers sparked violently against Lord Valerius's impenetrable, blessed Terminator plate, without inflicting true harm. He retaliated with a singular, devastating swing of his ancient demon hammer. The kinetic shockwave hurled the lifeless abomination backward into the choking, promethium-scented mechanical shadows. Above the chaotic fray, cult magus Zareth floated ominously on humming suspensor fields. His cybernetic tendrils crackled with unnatural, sickening green lightning drawn straight from the immaterium. Interrogator Kalen narrowly evaded a lethal arc of warp lightning. The corrupted energy scorched the reinforced adamantium pillar behind him, leaving a glowing, radioactive crater of slag. He drove his crackling power sword deep into their blasphemous mechanical altar. The disruption field violently severed the scrap code broadcast, plunging the cultists into momentary, panicked disarray. Our dutiful servo skulls swept through the toxic smog relentlessly. They painted priority heretical targets with crimson targeting lasers, guiding the executioners towards swift, uncompromising tactical resolutions. Ignatia advanced with cold, terrifying precision through the crumbling infrastructure. Every measured step she took reclaimed another corrupted inch of the underhive for the Golden Throne. The remaining traitors collapsed into dark, viscous puddles of industrial runoff. Their hollow eyes stared blankly upward as their false rebellion was systematically and mercilessly silenced. Lord Valerius engaged the twisted Magos in a brutal clash of wills. Holy kinetic energy met corrupted mechanical limbs in a deafening crescendo of shattered steel. The Inquisitor systematically dismantled the cyborg's offensive capabilities. Blasphemous mechadendrites shattered violently, leaking foul, dark lubricants across the holy inquisitorial seals etched into the metal floor. Valerius raised his shining rosette high above the ruined altar. The blinding light of undeniable imperial authority forced the wretched heretic to cower in absolute terror. This decisive victory momentarily stayed the hand of ultimate destruction. A planetary purge was averted. But the heavy cost of this shadow war remained utterly staggering. Far above the battlefield, augmented scribes documented the grim tally of silenced traitors. Every suppressed uprising simply added another heavy volume to our forgotten, hidden library. I read these violent accounts with a profound, trembling weariness. The sheer repetition of human betrayal slowly erodes even the most hardened and devoted imperial soul. We are the vigilant sweepers of a crumbling galactic mansion. We clean the rot daily, knowing perfectly well that the mold will inevitably return by tomorrow. Even the zealous interrogator paused amidst the smoldering wreckage. The constant, suffocating weight of suspicion began to cast dark, insidious shadows across his own unwavering faith. Sister Ignatia knelt among the silent ashes to offer a rapid prayer. She sought divine strength to endure the horrific nightmares that plagued her waking hours entirely. Lord Valerius simply stared into the abyssal depths of the underhive. He silently wondered how many more concealed horrors lay waiting just beyond his immediate sight. The immediate physical threat was decisively cleansed from the ruined underhive. Yet our elite strike force suffered losses that official records will permanently erase. Faithful servants who bore the holy texts were silenced abruptly in the darkness. They fell not as celebrated heroes, but as necessary, forgotten collateral damage. Their ultimate sacrifices bought us a momentary, fragile peace amidst the sprawling wreckage. We tread heavily over their shattered ceramite plates to ensure ultimate victory. Even the zealous Sisters of Battle found their holy promethium reserves entirely depleted. The sheer volume of systemic corruption simply overwhelmed our immediate purificatory flames. Lord Valerius surveyed the desolate, smoldering ruins of the lower hablocks. The crushing weight of command settled firmly upon his incredibly broad, armored shoulders. A localized Exterminatus was narrowly avoided by acolytes. Yet the toxic fallout from this massive internal betrayal poisoned the city's spiritual atmosphere forever. I documented these quiet tragedies meticulously in the deepest, forgotten vaults. Each fallen operative added another heavy anchor to my steadily sinking, weary soul. Reviewing the grim after-action reports revealed a terrifying, unexplainable inconsistency. The numbers of the corrupted simply defied all established demographic models of the entire sector. Our logic engine stalled while trying to process the impossible data points. There was a hidden variable, a dark equation we had profoundly overlooked. As the cleansing fires finally died down, a new, chilling mystery slowly emerged from the cooling ashes of the thoroughly shattered Hive city. Gravity itself began to weep and fracture within the deepest containment zones. Shattered plascrete debris floated erratically, defying every known law of Imperial physics. Blessed power fields inexplicably failed, covered instantly in unnatural, biting frost. The ambient temperature plummeted violently as an unseen, terrifying presence steadily manifested itself. Far above in the astropathic choir chambers, telepathic shields shattered simultaneously. A psychic frequency of absolute void pierced their heavily augmented, fragile minds entirely. Lord Valerius stared directly into an impossible, gaping tear in reality. The warp was not merely bleeding into our universe, it was deliberately observing us. The holy Rosette, the supreme symbol of unquestionable authority, suddenly felt cold and entirely powerless against this ancient, creeping cosmic dread expanding before him. I felt the terrifying echoes of that moment through the psychic static. An entity older than humanity itself was manipulating the very fabric of existence. Holy fire refused to ignite in the suffocating presence of such absolute anomaly. Sister Ignatia realized that blind faith alone could not burn everything. Advanced targeting algorithms crashed abruptly, overwhelmed by geometrically impossible readings. Our finest mechanical servants became useless, blind debris tumbling helplessly in the oppressive dark. The Inquisitor stood entirely alone against a localized manifestation of the absolute void. This was no ordinary rebellion, but a calculated, impossible cosmic trap. The profound mystery paralyzed our most seasoned operatives with existential terror. Who do we report to when the very fundamental laws of nature maliciously betray us? The anomaly did not strike. It simply observed our futile defiance for a lingering moment, before retracting into the abyssal nightmare of the immaterium. Lord Valerius lowered his heavy demon hammer slowly. The absolute silence that followed was far more terrifying than the deafening roar of the previous battle. The radiant gleam of Imperial authority had fundamentally changed. It felt incredibly heavy, a cold burden symbolizing our profound cosmic insignificance against ancient shadows. We declared a hollow victory over the ruined Hive. Yet every surviving operative carried a chilling, silent understanding deeply buried within their augmented minds. Sister Ignatia whispered desperate litanies to the Golden Throne continuously. The unyielding armor of her faith had been irreparably cracked by that impossible void. Even the most revered ancient war gear bore invisible, lingering scars. We merely survived the encounter. We certainly did not conquer that profound, lurking darkness. Hive Primus was aggressively quarantined and violently purged of remaining stragglers. The planet survived, but its fundamental soul was permanently scarred by heresy. The terrifying decree of absolute planetary destruction was suspended temporarily. However, the shadow of Exterminatus remained a constant, suffocating promise over the ruined world. Countless classified records were heavily redacted or completely incinerated. The Inquisition relies on shadows, burying impossible truths to maintain the fragile illusion of order. I sit alone within the suffocating depths of the Sanctum of Oaths. The crushing weight of these sealed histories steadily devours my weary spirit. Every fading word inscribed upon these rotting parchments is a testament to our continuous decline. We are merely delaying an inevitable, horrifying cosmic extinction. Even our mechanical companions seem to hum with a subtle, sorrowful resonance. They, too, witness the slow, agonizing decay of our vast, embattled empire. Astropathic choirs continue to scream across the stars. They hear the endless, hungry whispers of the warp, clawing at the fragile edges of reality. Men like Lord Valerius will never truly rest. They are tragically doomed to fight an eternal, impossible war against shadows that cannot be destroyed. We fuel the relentless imperial machine with constant, necessary suffering. It is a grotesque cycle of tragedy designed solely for our continuous, grim survival. Look closely at these towering, forgotten bookshelves, my devoted acolytes. They contain the tragic, hidden cost of humanity's desperate struggle to exist tomorrow. The terrifying truth is that the Inquisition does not protect the innocent. We simply enforce the necessary ignorance that keeps the wider Imperium functioning. I must now carefully seal this specific, harrowing record away. Some devastating secrets are simply too heavy for ordinary, fragile human minds to bear. The shadows grow longer within this subterranean vault every single day. The flickering light of our glorious Emperor seems terribly distant from this abyss. My time here grows short as the endless dark patiently waits. I blow out this frail candle, surrendering the chamber to the eternal silence. The Holy Inquisition exists simply because this cold universe is fundamentally hostile to human existence entirely. We are necessary monsters fighting against far worse cosmic nightmares. Do not weep for those we have silently purged, my faithful acolytes. Their necessary sacrifices form the grim mortar holding our crumbling galactic empire together. Innocence is not a virtue in this dark millennium. It is a fatal weakness. An open mind is merely a fortress with its gates unbarred. This heavy rosette grants absolute authority over life and complete systemic devastation. It demands a heart devoid of dangerous compassion or trembling hesitation whatsoever. Our most devoted agents carry unbearable psychological burdens silently into the void. They sacrifice their own humanity so that billions might continue to blindly breathe. We are the absolute judges acting in the terrifying shadows of His divine glory. Who then guards the silent watchman of this besieged, dying Imperium? Only the Master of mankind knows the true, harrowing extent of our hidden sins. We eagerly accept our damnation to ensure humanity's continued, flawed survival. Remember this grim lesson well when you stare into the starry abyss above. Trust no one, fear everything, and serve the golden throne without question. Our eternal watch continues unabated through these suffocating, endless nights of treachery. May His blazing light guide our relentless, unforgiving strikes. Imperator Gloria in Excelsis Terra. If you found this dark archive compelling, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so we may uncover more hidden truths together.